Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good semester so far. As in, for those of you who are observing the month of Ramadan, Ramadan Kareem to you. I hope your Ramadan and your ibadah are also going well along with your studies. So for today's class, I just want to kind of go through some fundamental topics and areas. But before we begin, let me just quickly go through your responses based on your first e-task. Okay. I asked you to watch a couple of videos. Based on those videos, you were asked to state your own understanding of emotional intelligence. And based on the video also, I asked you why it's important for us to know more about emotional intelligence and how does that help us with our lives. And also based on the videos, I asked you to decide for yourself what is it about emotional intelligence that you want to know more about. Okay. Then I gave you some areas that you may be interested to explore more of, and also certain themes that you may be interested. Now, based on those questions and tasks, alhamdulillah, all of you have done the work. And I'm glad to say that your understanding of emotional intelligence is very much spot on. Some of you know more than others, but generally you are aware there is this thing called emotional intelligence. I hope the video has helped. The two videos that I gave you as a start, I hope they have helped. And you also know why emotional intelligence is necessary for our lives. It's like none of you seem to have said, I don't understand why emotional intelligence is relevant. I'm glad you didn't, none of you said that. And I'm interested in knowing what you want to know more about with regards to emotional intelligence. So I don't want to start as if we know nothing about emotional intelligence. I'm sure you've been exposed to the idea, the concept. I'm sure you may have even read a little bit about it, watch videos or YouTube videos or TED Talks about it, right? I'm drawn to some of the key things that you are saying. For instance, this particular comment. I wish to know more about all of this. This bit of this I'm not too sure of. I'm assuming she's talking, or he or she's talking about emotional intelligence. How is connected to emotional intelligence? My test results comes in as INTJ. IN meaning introversion, and I meaning intuition, TE meaning thinking, and J meaning judging. And according to the readings, INTJ are famous for having weak emotional intelligence, as they are highly analytical and masters of suppressing emotions to keep moving forward. So I'm interested to see how these kinds of tests, personality tests, help us inform to us our strengths, our characteristics, our traits. And does it in fact inhibit us? Does it in fact restrict us? Instead of helping us, does it in fact hold us back? So I want to kind of explore certain ideas like that. Saya ingin mengetahui dengan lebih lanjut mengenai peranan kecerdasan emosi dalam mengatasi masalah kesihatan mental yang sering berlaku dalam pelbagai peringkat dan latar belakang masyarakat, lebih-lebih lagi ketika COVID-19 melanda, dan bagaimana cara untuk meningkatkan kesedaran masyarakat mengenai peranan kecerdasan emosi dalam membentuk kesejahteraan hidup manusia. selain penekanan kepada kesihatan fizikal. So I like this particular comment because this particular individual is not only thinking about herself or himself, but is also considering how knowledge about emotional intelligence can facilitate society at large. Okay, so using these two comments, the first one focusing on the individual, the self, and how the personality test appears to inform the candidate, the individual, her strength as well as her limitations, and how that limitation appear to be at conflict with emotional intelligence or the mastery of emotional intelligence. And the second comment about how emotional intelligence can be used to help society at large. Okay, so based on these comments also, I am drawn to the kind of topics and areas that you are interested in. First of all, when I asked you regarding the areas that you will be interested to explore, about 90% focused on mengenali diri sendiri dengan lebih dekat dan mengatasi isu emosi psikologi yang sedang dihadapi. So, on the one hand, I'm a little bit saddened that a lot of us are experiencing emotional, psychological issues. Almost 60% of us here, right? Mengatasi isu emosi psikologi yang sedang dihadapi. But on the other hand, I'm left with hope that you want to get to know yourself more. You want to have the opportunity to maybe upscale yourself in terms of your knowledge of emotional intelligence and how to manage your emotions better. And in terms of themes, the highest percentage is the theme of self-doubt, keraguan diri sendiri, followed by fear of failure and depression and loneliness. So, I'm not surprised and fear of success. So on the one hand, we have fear that we might fail. And on the other hand, we also have to take into consideration sometimes when we're doing very well, you are the most vulnerable. Because when you're high on success, on achievement, you may also fall if you don't maintain, right? So that's another fear. But generally a high percentage of you are experiencing more personal or individual level insecurities and fears, fear of failure, sense of loneliness, self-doubt, as well as depression. So based on that, I'm going to focus on a particular area for today's session. And you will also be given a task for this week, which I hope you will do. And we will continue the conversation next week. So I'm going to begin. So these are the things that I've already raised, some of the themes of interest that you have raised yourself. So on average, around, almost quite a high percentage of you, I would say almost 80% have certain issues with regards to the self, either depression, self-doubt, or fear of some kind, fear of failure, fear of, fear of success even, yeah. So I think we want to kind of strip all that down, break it all down to the core of what we're going to talk about. So before we go into emotional intelligence, the how, the what, the why, let's just understand emotion, whatever it is that we're feeling. So I want you to start, because this is literature for emotional intelligence. So I want to begin by just introducing you to a particular poem, just a short stanza from William Blake's The Poison Tree. It's an 18th century poem. Don't worry too much about it, but just understand the first stanza. consider the emotion being expressed in this poem. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. So the emotion that's being expressed in this poem, if you haven't guessed it already, is anger or rage or wrath. You can call it any other word, but it means the same thing. You know, sifat kemarahan, kemarahan yang teramat yang menyebabkan beliau tidak dapat bercakap dengan mereka yang menyebabkan dia marah, right? Dengan kawan dia dapat express, dapat memberitahu kepada kawan. Bila dia marah dia dapat beritahu, tapi kepada lawannya, kepada seseorang yang mungkin dia tak gemari, dia tak dapat bercakap tentang kemarahannya itu. Dan apa yang berlaku? Sifat kemarahan itu bertambah. The wrath did grow. Okay, itu stanza pertama. Kita tinggal puisi itu di sini. We leave it here for the moment. So I want to take it through a little bit more gentle steps into understanding emotion. So I want you to try to identify as many of these emotions as you can. Okay, saya akan menunjuk sedikit image. Dan untuk setiap image yang saya tunjuk ni, cuba teka apa emosi yang sedang ditunjukkan dalam gambar ini. And I'm sure you will know once you see it. Because this is the first emotion. So, you know, what kind of an emotion is this? Then you have this. What's the emotion here? The third one. What's the emotion here? What's this one expressing? What's this one emotion? In this emotion experience, when do you see it? You know? What's going on here? What's the emotion being expressed here? What's going on here? What's going on? What's the emotion being expressed? What's the emotion being expressed? What's the emotion that is captured on this face? Which expression is this? So, you know, I showed you a few examples of emotional expressions, right? So let's understand emotion first of all, okay? First of all, emotion is from the Latin word emotere, which means energy in motion. I like that idea very much, that whatever emotion that you're feeling, it is energy in your body that is in motion. And that energy in motion is what our brain translates into these chemicals that are being released into our blood system, right? And that allows our body to have this elevated sense of emotion. So that's how we understand feelings. Feelings are the awareness in our mind of that energy. So whatever energy that you're feeling and how you understand it as an emotion, it is because the brain is picking up on this this energy that you are experiencing, that is sending more chemicals out into your blood system, and your blood system is making you feel this particular kind of expression. So emotion is energy in motion. Okay, so when we feel an emotion, it is in fact the brain releasing chemicals, happy chemicals, stressful chemicals, chemicals that makes us feel a certain kind, right? In fact, scholars tell us that there are about 34,000 emotions that can be experienced. However, people tend to settle for the basic 10 to 12 emotions. I showed you some of them in the images just now. So why is it important for us to be mindful of our emotions. The reason is because being mindful of the energy that we're feeling in our body at any moment, in fact, translates into an emotion that we can articulate, a feeling from the mind that we can articulate into words. And the ability to articulate, the ability to say these emotions allows us then to manage the emotions. When we are able to articulate whether it's anger or sadness or depression or loneliness, whatever it is that you're feeling, right? That is the energy in your body. And that energy, if you are able to articulate it, then you are able to manage it better. So that's why we need to be mindful of whatever it is that we're feeling. So how is knowing your emotion connected to emotional literacy? And this is a quote from Claude Steiner from the 1997 work that he did. And I quote, "To be emotionally literate is to be able to handle emotions in a way that improves your personal power and improves the quality of life for you, and most importantly, the quality of life of the people around you." So when we talk about being literate, we talk about literacy. Literacy, it's about the act of being able to read, the act of understanding what you read, and then being able to think about what you read, being able to make sense of it. But when we talk about emotional literacy, it is the ability to manage your own emotion, to know what you're feeling, right? To be able to articulate. I remember what I said just now, being mindful of how do I feel right now? What's going on in my body? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling sad? What's going on in my body, right? And knowing how to use words to articulate it, to express these ideas. The value of that is when you are able to express what you are feeling, you are able to gain power over your own self. Rather than your body, your mind controlling you, you take control over your body, over your mind, over what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, over the feelings that you are experiencing. And when you are able to take control of your own emotional experiences, your quality of life improves. Okay? And when your quality of life improves, you are able to connect better with people around you. So that's why it's important to have emotional literacies. So some of the attributes, some of the characteristics of somebody who is emotionally literate, according to Claude Stein's work, include the person can notice and name emotions that they are feeling and those that they see. So that means when you see someone expressing a particular emotion, you can identify it. Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it curiosity? Is it joy? Is it worry? Is it sorrow? What's the emotion? Okay, you can notice it. When you see it, you identify it. That means you are literate, emotionally literate. You understand the message an emotion is aiming to communicate. So when somebody expresses a particular emotion, they don't use words, they show it on their face, for instance. You look at it and you can identify it and you can name it, and you understand the message behind it. Okay, if somebody shows you a face that's sad, you know the message, like maybe something happened, right, that's causing this person to feel this way. And added to that, an emotionally literate person is also able to select the emotion that they are experiencing and choose what to communicate. So when you are going through something, you go through what you're going through inside of you, right? Then you are able to select and articulate and communicate that experience to somebody. And finally, accepts emotions as normal part of life. This is something else an emotionally literate person is able to do. You don't shun away from it. You don't say, okay, I don't want to experience that. That's not something I want to experience. You realize having emotions ups and downs, this is normal. This is part of everyday life. And you need to find ways to manage it. Maybe talk about it. Maybe find ways to manage it in terms of working it through with somebody, somebody you trust, right? So these are all elements of somebody who is emotionally literate. You can identify it when you see it either in yourself or in somebody else. You understand the message behind the emotional experience, right? You select the emotion that somebody is experiencing, and you choose what to communicate. You don't ask something like, "Why are you feeling sad? What's wrong with you? What's going on?" You are mindful of the way you express your questions to either that person or to even yourself. You don't say things like, "Stop being an idiot, why are you being sad?" You don't like communicate that way. You probe, you find out what's going on, right? And you also accept that, look, whatever is going on right now, this is normal. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm lost. It doesn't mean I haven't matured, I haven't figured it out. It means I'm normal, right? But now, what can I do about it? So that's the next step. So emotionally literate person, in a nutshell, if you like, the person is able to identify and articulate the different emotions that we feel at any given moment, right? Sometimes you feel happy, sometimes you feel sad, sometimes you feel hopeful, sometimes you feel challenged, sometimes you feel anxious, sometimes you feel nervous, sometimes you feel fearful. These are emotions, these are healthy emotions. What is important is knowing how to manage it, how to deal with it. So the managing part of it is knowing what's going on in your body, knowing the emotion in motion, right? The energy in motion that's happening in your body, the energy that you're feeling because of these chemicals being released into your bloodstream, right? Adrenaline, cortisol, the dopamine, the happy hormones and the stressful hormones. Knowing that I'm feeling like this because these chemicals are being released into my bloodstream and making me have these kinds of energy, and this translates into the emotion that I'm feeling, right? But let's manage it now. Let's do something about it. So I want to start by coming back to the poem just now. So consider how the persona in this poem by William Blake, The Poison Tree, consider how the persona manages his emotion. So he feels anger on two different occasions. The first occasion, he feels anger towards a friend. The second emotion, he feels anger. The second experience, he feels the same emotion, which is anger, but this time around, he feels towards his foe, his enemy, somebody he doesn't like. So the first time when he feels anger towards his friend, what did he say? What did he do? He talked about it. He told his anger to his friends. He told his friend this. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath, and my wrath did go. So when I was angry with my friend, I spoke about it. I told him or her about it. Hey, you made me upset the other day. Why did you call me out like that? It was not nice of you to do that. So I told my friend this. And when I spoke about it, I felt better afterwards. My wrath did end, right? That emotion ended. Then in another situation, the persona was angry towards his enemy, towards his foe. But what did he do? I told it not. My wrath did grow. I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell him or her about it. Of course, because if that person you don't see eye to eye on things, it's difficult for you to talk to him or her about it, right? There'll be more misunderstanding, right? Maybe that's also aggravating the situation. So when you don't talk about it, when you don't either talk to that person about it or talk about it to someone you trust or deal with it, what happens to that emotion, right? The emotion doesn't end. So that's the first clue. Using this poem, we get the first sense of how to manage our emotion, how to develop emotional literacy. Talk about it, especially if it's affecting you, like a negative emotion like anger, rage, it's affecting you definitely. If we don't deal with it, it doesn't go away. That's the thing. You need to deal with it, whatever emotions it is: sadness, depression, loneliness, anxiety, fear, anger. First clue, you got to deal with it. Either deal with it directly to the person who's causing it to you, right? That would definitely help. But if you're not able to deal with it in terms of the person, such as in the second context with your somebody you have a misunderstanding with, somebody you don't see eye to eye with, somebody you cannot get along with, maybe because of clash of temperaments, clash of personalities, whatever reasons, we have that, right? How do we deal with it? Okay, so that's the second part we want to talk about. We don't want it to grow. That's the first thing we don't want. We want it to end, but because we cannot deal with it directly, there's something else we need to do. I want you to have a look at this particular poem, also by another English poet, Stevie Smith, a 20th century poet this time around. William Blake was 18th, 19th century poet. Stevie Smith is a 20th century poet. This is a 1972 poem called Not Waving But Drowning. It's an important poem. I'll break it down for you in a minute, but it's an important poem about many, many issues. But one of the issues that I want to talk about today is what happens when you don't deal with the emotions that you are feeling, especially the negative ones. What happens if you try to mask it? You don't show it to people. You become stoic, you keep it behind a mask, and you show a different side of you, maybe a happy-go-lucky, maybe joyful, maybe you're like the clown, you make people laugh, you make people feel good, but you are not dealing with the emotions that's happening in your heart. So have a look at this. The poem says, "Nobody heard him, the dead man, but still he lay moaning." So the persona is watching somebody, right? Unlike the first poem, when the persona is talking about his own emotions or her own emotions, in this case, the persona is observing somebody, and the somebody that she or he is observing is a dead man. And the dead man is moaning, like, oh, like, so it sounds as if the dead man is moaning. And what is the dead man saying? It's almost like you visualize the dead man and you assume that the dead man is saying all this thing. "I was much further out than you thought, not waving, but drowning." So imagine where this person is. Drowning, it gives you a clue, the context. The persona is where? Not on land, obviously, but somewhere in deep ocean, water, maybe pool, maybe a river, maybe a lake, but further out. That means not in the shallow end, but further deep in the ocean or the pond or the river. And what was the persona observing? The persona was observing the dead man, and the dead man was saying that actually I was not waving, or not, I was not saying hi. I was in fact drowning, right? But nobody understood that when I was doing this, it looks as if I'm waving, right? It looks like I'm saying, "Hi, how are you?" But in fact, I'm shouting for help, I'm asking for help, but people didn't understand me. And this is what the persona says to the situation. "Poor chap, poor guy. He always loved larking. Larking meaning making jokes, being the clown. He seemed happy, right? He always loved larking. And now he's dead. It must have been too cold for him. His heart gave way," they said. Maybe, in his heart, he just felt like he just couldn't go on anymore. Too cold there has two connotations. One, Literally, meaning he's in the water, he's been in the water for too long. He just, the situation became too unbearable. His heart just gave way. The second situation is the metaphoric example. Metaphorically, when your heart becomes cold, it could be because you've lost hope. So it's symbolic, right? It could be because you feel no warmth, no life. So those experiences, no hope, no warmth, no life, right, makes your heart go cold. And when your heart becomes cold because of the lack of love, the lack of life, the lack of hope, your heart gives way, meaning your heart stops, i.e., the person dies, right? And this is what the persona hears from the drowning man, or the dead man. Oh, no, no, no. It was too cold always. It wasn't like gradual. It's always been like that, right? The dead man lay moaning. It was much too far all my life, not waving but drowning. So it's not like that one episode that caused my heart to stop. That was, hypothermia I went through. It was just too cold. My heart became cold also, literally, and then it stopped. It wasn't like that. He says, I was much too far out all my life. All my life, I've always been, in this situation where I'm not able to express my feelings, when I don't feel love in my heart, when I feel no warmth in my heart, and when I'm always, trying to get your attention, trying to ask for help, not waving, but drowning. But nobody seems to understand. So I think this is a very powerful poem that captures what happens when we are not able to, number one, communicate maybe to ourselves what's happening in our heart, what's happening in our body, what's happening in our mind, the emotions, the energy in motion. We're not able to understand, identify. And number two, we're not able to articulate it. We're not able to maybe ask for help, maybe talk about it to somebody. Remember the first poem. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. So imagine substituting anger with sadness, fear, anxiety, depression. I was depressed. I was angry. I was sad. I was mournful. I was fearful. I told about it, I spoke about it, and that emotion did end. So it's almost like that, right? So this poem reminds us the importance of being mindful of what's going on in our heart, in our mind, in our body, that energy in motion, being mindful of it, being mindful that your heart is cold, being mindful that you're not feeling love, being mindful that you're feeling hopeless, being mindful that you're feeling insecure, whatever the situation is. For all of us, we each have our own different challenges, our own emotional ups and downs, right? Being mindful of being vulnerable. Maybe you feel vulnerable, you feel scared that you can't do this, or you feel scared that you've been successful all this time and you're not sure whether you can maintain it. So the fear of success as well as the fear of failure, right? So whatever that emotion is, we need to be mindful of it. So the first thing that I want to talk to us for this week at least is how to develop emotional literacy. Before we go to emotional intelligence, let's just talk about the literacy component. So this is your first task for this week. Begin by identifying the emotion that you are feeling. Whatever the emotion is, begin by identifying the emotion. And use this human systems emotion wheel that I will share with you on UKM Folio. I will share the diagram, the flow, the chart itself. Begin by looking at the chart and asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? Look at this, the middle circle. The middle circle comes up with more generic terms like anger, sadness, joy, whatever these feelings is. and then gradually move to the middle circle and then the outer circle. Try to be as detailed as possible. How exactly are you feeling? So if you say anger, what's causing the anger? Go at the middle circle. Ask yourself, is it, am I feeling embarrassed because of something? Am I feeling depressed because of something? What am I feeling? So look at the middle circle and the second circle and the outer circle. So be as detailed as possible for step one. Identify how you are feeling. The second step is decide what needs to improve for your emotions to improve. Like remember, emotion is energy in motion. So there is a kind of an energy that you are experiencing in your body, right? So what needs to happen to help you feel better right now? Don't think long term. Don't think next week, 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now. Don't think long term. Think immediate. Is there something that you can do right now? Is there something someone can do for you right now? Maybe you can pick up a phone, maybe you can talk to somebody, maybe you can listen to some music, maybe you can go for a walk, maybe you can do some breathing, deep breathing. Once you've broken your fast, maybe you can have something to drink or something to eat. Maybe you can take a nap, maybe you can write your ideas down. Maybe you can, if you play musical instruments, maybe you can play something that makes you feel better. Whatever it is, something immediate. All right. Also ask yourself, is there something that needs to happen to your circumstance that can improve? Like you are stuck in your room, maybe you can step out. You can just go out of the room. Maybe you can, if you've got a vehicle, motorbike, a bicycle, car, whatever, you can go for a ride. Whatever that you can do immediately, decide on that first. And brainstorm also possible actions that you can take to improve this emotional state. So from this list, immediate one thing, then you brainstorm. You may not be able to change the circumstance or the context. However, you can still control your energy flow in your body. Remember that. That's the first thing that we need to remember, right? Whatever emotions that we're feeling, I can't change my circumstance. I can't change whatever is causing this. But I can change my emotion. I can change what I'm going through by choosing how to deal with it. So ask yourself further questions. What can I do specifically to change my emotional states? How can I go from this negative emotion to a more positive one? What can I do right now to make me feel more positive about my life? What actions bring me joy? So this is to ask immediate. Third step is to think about maybe, slightly at a longer period. Even if it's just a few hours, a few days, maybe within the next few days, what can I do to elevate this emotion? One question that we need to always ask yourself, especially when you're feeling, down and negative and depressed, emotions like self-doubt and fear, vulnerable in terms of uncertainties and insecurities. Something that can work immediately is to ask yourself, what can I do to make me feel joyful now? Not what can I get before I feel joyful, but what can I do to make me feel joyful? So always have a kind of a list of things that gives you joy, things that you do, people you meet, things that you like to do in terms of physically trying to do something, or maybe watch something, or maybe listen to something that brings you joy. Don't rely on other people's list that brings them joy, but always ask yourself, what brings me joy, right? If you are a kind of person, you're social, you like to be in a company of people. Being in a company of people like your friends, your family brings you joy. That's one on your list. If you are more of the private, introverted, you know, uh, You like your own company better than being with people. When you're feeling down, don't go out meeting people, right? Don't do that. Ask yourself, what are the actions that bring you joy? Maybe like you love to dance. Maybe you love to sing in your room, in your own space. Maybe you like to watch, I don't know, cat videos, dog videos. Those things work for me, or certain there are certain things that you like to do that when you do it brings you joy. Okay, do it mindfully. Even if you say ice cream brings me joy, okay, do it mindfully. That means if you are consuming, say, ice cream or cake or coffee or whatever, do it mindfully. Don't do it mindlessly, because when you do it mindlessly, that's when it becomes addictive. That's when you're taking something and it's abusive towards you, because you're not mindful of what you're doing. You just simply do it because you want to numb the pain. It doesn't bring you joy. It makes you feel nothing for a short period of time. That includes drugs, that includes cigarettes, smoking, vaping, whatever else, pot, whatever, that does not bring you joy. That numbs the pain. So you must, in this step 3, really consciously ask yourself, what actions do I take that brings me joy? Maybe you love to cook. I know some people who, every time they're down or depressed or feeling insecure, they start to clean the house. They start to do stuff in the kitchen, bake, cook. Those are productive things that will be on, afterwards when you look back, you think, okay, at least I didn't hurt myself. So what actions can you do right now that is more positive for your life? What actions can bring you more joy? This is step number 3. Then step number 4, choosing one of those steps that you have brainstormed in step 3, take one and act upon it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just look at the list and say, okay, maybe going for a run. Okay, going into the kitchen and just baking something. Okay, whatever is on my list, don't think about it, right? Don't ask yourself, is this really going to help me? Is this going to make me feel good? What if it doesn't make me feel good? I don't think this is going to make me feel good. No. Step 3 is when you are, consciously brainstorming for yourself. And don't think about the choice in step 4. So step 3 is a list that you already have you've prepared in advance, right? Step 4, look at the step 3 list, just choose one. Don't think about it. Choose one, maybe yours is just to do some Zumba, just go for walks, just go outside with some friends, go for a cup of coffee with some friends, hang out with some friends, be by yourself in the room and meditate, journal, call your parents, call your whatever is on your list that will make you feel good. Okay, that makes you feel good, that makes you feel joyful, the actions that you can take that's positive to you, take one of it. In step 5, this is important. Okay, after you've gone through that, maybe the emotion subsides, you feel much better afterwards. After attempting this, ask yourself these questions. How does it make me feel now? I've gone through this. I had that emotion, maybe, panic attack, maybe, anxiety attack, whatever. You've tried this. Once you feel better, once the emotion comes down a little bit, it's not completely gone. I'm not saying that it will end completely, but it's much better. You are able to kind of like digest the emotion better. I want you to also start to journal about it. Capture what you are experiencing. Ask yourself questions like, how does it make me feel now? Do I feel better? Do I want to continue feeling how I feel right now? Or do I want to go back to feeling what I felt before this? This act of reflecting, this is the moment when learning happens, learning from your own experience. That means this is the bit where you take back the power. Remember when I said what emotional literacy was? The definition by looking for it right now. Remember the definition by, where is it? The definition by Claude Stein. What is an emotionally literate person? Which is what we are trying to develop right now from this exercise. To be emotionally literate is to be able to handle emotions, not remove emotions, not run away from emotions, not repress emotions, but to be able to manage it, to be able to handle emotions in a way that improves your personal power. You take back that power. Don't give the power to your body and say, okay, this is what my body is experiencing. This is the energy that's in my body right now. Depression and sadness and sorrow and fear and anxiety and anger and rage. I'm just going to give up and just give in to it. No, that's not being an emotionally literate person. An emotionally literate person takes back the power by learning ways to handle it. All right. And also remember that emotion is part of life. You accept it. You cannot run away from it. You accept it. But it's knowing the message that your body and your feelings are telling you, and knowing how to manage it. What can I do right now? Immediately, what can I do to change my emotional state? Right? Sometimes a certain emotion hits you really hard. What's the first thing that you can do? Yes, you have to accept it. This is how I'm feeling right now. You cannot run away from it, right? You got to accept what you're feeling. And then you ask yourself, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. Is there something I can do immediately that would help me change the state of my body, the emotions, the energy that I'm feeling? Is there something I can do? I'm not trying to run away from it. I'm trying to manage it, right? I'm trying to get control of my own emotion rather than the emotion controlling me, right? I'm trying to control my emotion. So this is the emotionally literate person. So for this week, that's all I'm asking you to do. You know, take control of your emotion. Don't let your emotion control you. You know, in William Blake's The Poison Tree, when he is not able to tell his foe about his anger, in the end, he commits a crime. He basically kills his foe through his anger. His anger, his rage consumes him to the extent that he uses it to take revenge on his enemy. He commits a crime. So that's not managing our emotions. When you're feeling negative emotions like anger, rage, frustration, whatever negative energy, not controlling it, not managing it consumes you. You are driven to commit crimes or even abusing yourself by maybe inflicting harm on yourself, cutting, abusing your body through, substance abuse or other forms of abuse, or you allow others to abuse you because you think you deserve it. You allow people to be nasty to you because you think you deserve it, because you feel guilt and shame, right? That's not dealing with the emotion. So always remember there is something you can do about it. It might be as simple as picking up the phone and telling somebody, like telling a friend how you feel, right? But never mask your emotion like this poor chap in this poem. Never cover it up, never hide it. Do something, because when you hide it, your heart turns cold. There's no warmth. There's no love in your heart. There's no hope in your heart. And that's what we don't want. And that's why emotionally literate person, they are able to do certain things, certain immediate things. Identify the emotions, being able to say the words, what exactly am I feeling? Right? Decide what needs to be done. Take positive actions based on your choices. What makes you happy? What are things you do that usually brings you joy? Go to that. Have a go-to list. Take action. Then reflect on it. After a while, come back to it. What was that about? What did I do? Was it useful what I did? I went for a walk. I went went out with some friends and I went out shopping. I picked up the phone and spoke to my mom. I called my friend. I went on Facebook and checked out some of the messages and watched some videos. I watched a movie. I read a book. I played my guitar, my piano, my whatever. Reflect on it. Did it help me? Was it useful for me? Then tell yourself, okay, what that action, that was good. It worked for me. This other action, nah, it didn't work. So decide which ones work, which ones don't. So those who work, those actions that worked, save that for the next time you feel down. Because remember, going this state of ups and downs, that's pretty normal. It's what we do about it that matters. Okay, so that's something to remember. We have a choice in the way we feel at all times. In terms of our emotional state in the circumstance, we have a choice in terms of the actions that we can take immediately, as well as in the long run, to help improve our situation. So if you want to know more about the steps on how to go through this, watch this short video. The link, I'll share it with you on UKM Folio as well as in our Telegram channel. Okay, so I hope you found the session useful. I hope the discussions that we had today will be beneficial to you. I look forward to hearing from you through your task.